Squeaky Bum Time, a brand new podcast we're trying out. This is a lot of fun, something I'm really looking forward to. So, Gary, you're going to be my co-host today.
Fantastic, thank you.
It's an absolute pleasure, an absolute honour to always have you beside me here in the studio.
I've not seen the contract yet, though.
It's coming, it's on the way, right? The producer's over there, I don't handle this sort of stuff.
So after half an hour, you're going to see that.
Jaap Stam, of course, needs no introduction, and Carlton Palmer. So, 3 players, or former players I should say, and you guys cut across different generations effectively. I mean, 80s, 90s, and 2000s.
And 3 former managers as well.
And 3 former managers.
And current one maybe going back in. We're trying to get him another job. Come on.
Definitely looking back into management, right? Something you want to investigate further. But I want to find out more about life as a player, what's it like behind the scenes. So we're not reflecting back on the games we just witnessed on the weekend. More stories from you gents. So the first question I need to know, what is the biggest misconception about being a professional footballer? One that's played for the country that you represent.
It's an easy life. People think it's an easy life. It's a tough. If you're playing at a big club, if you're an international footballer, it is hard work. It is hard work. I mean, we have a good life, or when we say we have a good life,
you get the benefits from it.
You get the trappings,
but people only think about money.
Yes.
People think about
houses,
cars, parties.
Free clothes, free
all that kind of stuff, you know. And of course, times are changing, and sometimes it is happening. But it's all up to you as well if you want it or not. Basically, you've got a choice yourself as well if you want to take part in everything. Yeah. But you need to work for it very hard as well.
Yeah.
You know, and because it's a lot of training, there's a lot of stress, there's pressure. You need to work hard. You need to deliver every day in training sessions as well. Yeah. So it's a tough job as well. Traveling as well, away from your families. You're missing birthdays from
Christmas
your kids,
days,
Christmas
training,
days,
Boxing Day.
You have to sacrifice a lot. No two ways about it. And you know, most people just see the glory, but they don't see the hard hours. You know, they don't see you vomiting on the training park when you're pushing yourself to the limit.
Vomiting?
Yeah.
Pre-season.
Yeah, of course.
That's a common occurrence. Back in the day, I mean, obviously the training's more thought out now, and it's more geared to obviously
you're monitored,
heart rates and stuff like that. But back in our day, when we were playing, it's straightforward. There's a nil. We're going up there about 10 times.
Yeah, exactly.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
and I miss that part of it.
And sometimes it's good as well because it's good for it's the mentality as well. And when you're tired, can you then still do that? Can you give that little bit of extra?
Yeah.
And now it's all about data and GPS and is he tired now? Okay, we need to take him out now.
Yeah. Let's give him a bit of a rest. Look at his pulse rate. Whereas I actually quite liked, and I don't know what this says about me, I actually quite liked that pain that you used to get with it. You know, like you're pushing yourself to the limit.
I wouldn't say I liked it, girl.
No,
especially afterwards, the feeling that you get when you've done it.
And when you actually play and you know you're fit, you go. Some games I used to go on the pitch, and I was one of the fittest players in the Premier League. But you knew when you went on the pitch and you were playing against somebody, and I used to think to myself going in the tunnel, oh my God, you're in for a shock today. Mm-hmm. You're in for a shock today.
Out of interest, because you're managing currently, so you're very, very up to date in how things are with current players. Do you think they have it easier in the present day than during your time as a player?
Sometimes I'm thinking yes, because now you've got. I think back in the days you only had you've got the manager, you've got a coach, and maybe an extra coach or a trainer, whatever, and then 3 of you need to do it, you need to work. And now you've got a whole staff, you've got a lot of people, you know, and you've got somebody to do the conditional, the physical part, you've got somebody to do that, for him, and he's got the responsibility to do that, and he's with all the data and everything, and so every time that he thinks, okay, this individual has worked like this hard, and that's it for him, now we need to take him out, that I'm as a manager sometimes thinking, well, I think he can do a couple of extra runs. I would have done a couple of extra runs, but then they're telling me, well, you need to be careful because you need to play these games and that game and that game and that game. Well, I think, I would have done it a couple of extra runs for him. But
I don't know where it's all going on the numbers. I look back to my first team picture, in the team picture of the first team for Brighton and Hove Albion.
You haven't changed much, by the way.
Late 70s. No, I've aged okay. Late 70s. There's 16 players, a manager, an assistant, and a physio. That's it.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's all that's in. Now, if you look at a team photo today, size of the squads at the top end, and Brighton were in the top flight back then as well, And when a team goes on a European trip, for example, you look at the physios, the masseurs, the dietitians, the sports psychologists. They go with more members of staff than they do players.
It's unbelievable. When I was at Milan, when I went to Italy, and at Milan they're famous because of their
longevity of the players.
And everything that they've got, like in the medical staff, the amount of people, and they test what they're doing, and they've got a whole clinic down there as well, and doing research and everything. I joined them, and then they asked me as well if I want to take my own physio as well, because certain players over there took their own physios over there as well to treat them. And then you've got like the physios from the club. So when I came into the medical room over there, there were like, I don't know, like 10 tables or whatever, and there were like 15 physios over there. I've never seen it before.
Did you take your own?
No, I didn't. I didn't take my own because I hardly had any big injuries. But but then when you're traveling, when you're going away, all these people need to come along as well.
It's too much, though,
there's loads of people traveling.
An entourage.
And of course you need to take care of your players because they're the asset of the club, and they need to be fit and everything. But it's an enormous amount of people that are traveling.
Well, a lot of the players now, I've got to be honest, they're soft. A lot of the players are soft now. I mean,
but it's our own fault as well, because we go along with it.
But because, listen now, you get a physio, managing now, you get the physio come to me and say he's got a knock. How many times you played, not just with a knock? The managers come to you and said it's not for debate. You're playing.
Yeah, but you just keep on going because there wasn't a game that you don't feel something.
Never. Not from the first game to the last game of the season. I don't think you start without a niggle, without an injury, or you feel a bit sick. A player feels a bit sick now. Can't play.
Yeah. And they come back in when they're totally free of everything.
Yeah.
And normally when we were injured and you're out, then after a couple of days they tap you on your shoulder. How are you feeling? Can you play? Well, yeah. Well, I can. I feel a bit, but it's fine. I can go on the pitch, But nowadays it's like, oh no, a couple of extra days. How are you feeling? Yeah, I still feel a little bit. Okay, a couple of extra days, and then it takes weeks before a player comes back into the team.
We have to be careful we don't sound like three old ex-footballers here, because a lot of the progress has been great progress in the game, because some of the stuff that used to happen, pain-killing injections, for example, and how bad was that for so many players, for example. So there's been lots of improvements that have been good, but I don't know whether maybe they're wrapped in cotton wool a little bit too much.
But they are, Galen. I don't think we're coming across as three bitter ex-pros. By the way, we've all had three.
You used the word bitter, not me.
No, but we've all had three good careers, and we've all been through a lot, and we know the difference between, when you're managing, and when a player's faking. Listen, a player's having a bad time today, and then he goes, and we know that. Whereas in our day,
that did happen. People would fake injuries if they're having a.
Of course.
Yes,
of course it happens.
Hey, they're having a bit of a bad time. It's gaffer. Do you know what I mean? Or and it's amazing because if you're on a run, nobody's in and the team's doing well. Nobody's in the injury. Nobody's in the treatment room. Nobody's in there.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So I don't think we're coming across. We're just saying that how it was in our day, and we're players who've played a lot of football games. I mean, I hardly missed a game. You hardly missed a game. Gary, unfortunately, you got injured. But before that, you played a lot of football.
Fairly consistent.
A serious injury, I should add. Very serious injury.
Serious for me,
What about the other side of football, that perhaps players don't have as much passion for their clubs as we used to see before because they're so disconnected from the fans? I do a lot of travelling. I interview a lot of players.
Yeah, but that's the media.
That's the media side.
The media's come into it now. I mean, like the way I played the game now, could never play. Friday night, I was in the pub on a Friday night.
But that's the thing. Players can't go and do that. Now, obviously, the science aside.
But why shouldn't you be able to do that? Like Ron Atkinson used to say to me, right? So I trained 3 evenings a week on my own with my own private fitness guy. I was a fit lad. I trained in the morning on the Friday, right? I always used to go and have a couple of Guinnesses in the afternoon, right? Or Friday evening. I was in bed, and then I played on a Saturday. Chris Waddle, I couldn't believe this. I'll tell you a story about Chris Waddle. He was a magician. You know this girl. He won the Sports Writers Player of the Year when he came back from Marseille at 37 years of age. When he signed for Sheffield Wednesday, him and his missus Lorna, they bought an house not far from me. So Waddler said to me, you pick me up on Saturday for the game. I said, no problem, Waddler. And then my ex-missus will bring Lorna to the game. So he said to me, pick me up at 11:30. So I'm thinking, 11:30? The game's not till 3 o'clock. We ain't going to be at the ground till 1:30. He said, Carlton, just come and get me at 11:30, will you? So I think, you know, he's a legend, isn't he, you know? So I go and pick him up at 11:30. He said to me, where's your local? Here, where do you drink locally here? I said, well, I drink at the Rising Sun. He said, come on then, let's go. So we go in there, I'm thinking, what's going on? So he orders a pint of Guinness and fish and chips.
What year was this?
92.
1992.
1992. And he orders fish and chips and a pint of Guinness. I thought he was winding me up, to be fair, right? So he had 2 pints of Guinness, fish and chips. We get to the ground. He goes in the physio's room. He said, CP, give me a shout at 2:30. And at 2:30, well, we're going out for a warm-up at 2:05. No, 2:30, give me a shout, right? So I give him a shout at 2:30. He comes into the dressing room, right? So they've watered the pitches a bit more, so he wears his Adidas boots. He has the mouldeds on, but he has a couple of those metal studs, right? I have never seen a display of football in my life the way he played that day. It was frightening.
So the answer is pint, fish and chips, and go out for your walk.
I was when I started playing football, my first professional team, Zwolle. In January '92, I went to Sheffield Wednesday on trial with Trevor Francis was the manager.
But I was still there,
and that's why I'm referring to '92.
Yeah.
Because then I saw 2 people like with a bit of a maybe a drink, and I thought maybe that's you too then. No.
Are you serious?
That's a joke, but it's true.
You
yeah.
went there on trial?
Yeah, because Jimmy Calderwood is a Scottish guy who was working in Holland for quite a few years, and he was the assistant manager at the club where I joined at that time in '92. And then in January, and Trevor Francis was a friend of him. He said, "Well, we've got this lad in now. You need to take him on trial. You need to see him because he's gonna make certain steps in professional football." So they've asked me to come over there. So I went over there for a week. I think I played a friendly with the under-23s, and then I had a couple of training sessions with the first team after that. And then I went back, and then they asked me back again, and then I said, well, first I want to do the job in Holland, and then we'll see how it goes in my career.
But that's interesting now you said that, Jaap, because you know I went at the end of that season. So he planned to sell me, he didn't tell me. I went at that end of the season to Leeds United, so they were probably looking at you as my replacement.
Sliding doors. Wow,
Yeah.
that is amazing.
Interesting.
But going back to the previous statement you said, why can't players do it? And I'll show you why, because of this.
No, it is. But you know what? You should be brave enough to. And if I'm a manager, like I remember Ron Atkinson saying to me, right, Trevor Francis had a problem with it when he took over, right? But Ron Atkinson said to me, I haven't got a problem with what you do. All I'm interested in is what you do on a Saturday, on a Tuesday, or a Wednesday. That's what I'm interested in, right? Trevor Francis had a problem with it. And he had a problem but he never had a problem when I was training 3 nights a week on my own with a private fitness guy to get fit. You've got to trust your players and know your players and know what they're about. I'll tell you a story which was unbelievable. We're playing West Bromwich Albion, New Year's Eve, 12 o'clock kickoff. We go down.
What, midnight?
We go down.
Not Malaysian time.
We go down the night before, but in our side, you've got Nigel Worthington, Nigel Pearson, John Sheridan, David Hurst, Carlton Palmer, Danny Wilson. We're all drinkers. Fit lads, but drinkers. So Ron, most of us, I think we had 8 internationals in the side. So we'd been away, come back. So Ron had said everybody had to be down for 1:45 midnight. Everybody. So I'm like, oh, Jesus, I'm knackered. I just didn't want to do it. He said, no. He said, CP, phone me in the room. He said, if you don't come down, you're not playing tomorrow. Simple as. So everybody was down, right? He ordered drinks for everybody, right? We stayed up, did all lang syne with everybody in the hotel and whatever. About 12:20, get yourselves to bed. We beat them next day 3-0. They couldn't believe it. It's a mindset you've got to know, and I think we've gone too far where I'll tell you now, Sheffield United.
At the time, everybody was like, everybody, but a lot of teams, players were doing it, and I think now you can't do it.
Sheffield United,
you can't do it anymore because the times are changing. If you do it now, or the manager is thinking, okay, we can still do that, and the rest of the teams
behind everybody,
is not doing it. Eventually, I think what you're saying, you go behind, and
because you're the only one here that went from the continent to play in England, did you find a cultural shift in terms of how players like to relax outside of a game of football and training?
Yeah, it was totally different when I joined United. Look at what Carlton was saying as well. When I joined United, it was the mentality of the players was very good, but occasionally as a squad we went out as well. And not like every week or whatever, but sometimes we went out and have a drink, and then the next day when the training session was there, everybody was like working very hard again and putting their best effort in, and eventually we did very well. But in Holland it was never the case. And everybody heard the stories about how it went in the UK, but. In Holland, everybody was like very down to earth, and they thought, "Well, you can't do that. That's not.
But it's
you can't do that in
though,
professional football. You need to be very serious, in your job and what you're doing."
But it's interesting, Jaap. When I was at Nottingham Forest, we had a lot of foreigners coming to Nottingham Forest, a lot of Italians, and one of them, I can't remember who it was, used to say about my drinking, but yeah, he used to smoke. Mm-hmm. Have a cigarette at half time, go in the toilet. A lot of the foreigners smoke, don't they?
Yeah.
And at half time, he'd
True,
be
in
having
Holland
a
as well.
The gaffers finish the team talk, and they go and have a smoke round by the bathroom area, and it's like
even in the dugout during the game, managers in Holland as well. They were like,
did they?
Yeah, they were smoking. Yeah.
Ancelotti.
No, in Holland.
In Holland, but Ancelotti as well used to smoke, right?
Yeah.
As well.
But not during the game.
Not during the game, okay.
I mean, I used to find that. I used to find that hard to fathom. Mm-hmm. I couldn't get my head around that. So you're having a go at me for going out on a Saturday night to have a drink, but we haven't got a game till the following Saturday. But you smoke maybe 20 a day or whatever.
I remember when I first went to Spurs, Ozzy Ardiles, Argentinian World Cup winner.
Yeah.
Half time in the toilets, having a cigarette. I couldn't believe it.
Yeah. No, I found it strange.
Yeah. But it didn't hinder him then.
But I think the influence of alcohol, I think, is when you drink too much is different than when you smoke. Smoking is bad, and you can't do that if you're in professional sports. Like, okay, it's what they say, but a lot of players, and I think now certain players are doing it, because they find it helps them out or whatever, But if you're drinking a pint too much or whatever, then you're like this on the pitch. Then
moderation, everything. In moderation.
It looks a bit different, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's very obvious to see the effects of alcohol, obviously. Drinking before a game.
No, but still, of course, and I think even now, when the game's finished, certain players, and even when I was in Italy, the day before the game, when we had dinner, when we were in training camp or whatever in the hotel, they gave you like a glass, 1 or 2 glasses of wine, because it's common over there to do that.
Yeah.
And even if we on match day, if we play in the evening, in the afternoon before you go to bed to have a kip or whatever, some certain players take 1 glass of wine because it helped them relax.
Yeah.
And nobody's saying something about it. But in Holland, the culture is totally different. In Holland, they say, well, you're not allowed, you can't do that.
Did you think England was a bit backward? Because obviously you came just not too long after Arsene Wenger. And Arsene Wenger is credited as changing the mindset of how...
What do you mean, after Arsene Wenger?
Well, Arsene Wenger came to England, and then they say he revolutionised, your food, all the fitness stuff, etc., which weren't really apparent before, the drinking culture, etc., and having pasta as a pre-match meal. He's quite heavily credited with bringing that to England, something he learnt from overseas. Was it the same in the Netherlands? And did you find that perhaps the English were a bit backwards in their preparation?
No, they
for
weren't
matches?
backwards at all. In Holland, it was the same. Like when I went to United, everything was very in professional in how everything went. Before the games, in training sessions. Meetings and everything, food as well. It's not as strict as it is now, but when I joined United, there was pasta, there was rice, there's boiled chicken, there's the normal things that we still eat before a game, and that was the same in Holland, so they weren't backwards at all. The only thing was that sometimes, in the culture, in English culture. Sometimes it was that, okay, certain players like to have a beer in the weekend or even during the week or whatever, to have a small drink. And that wasn't the case in Holland.
But you look at the game now, and you look at the game now, you can't name too many characters. You can't name too many flamboyant people, because media and social media and the expectations. So the problem that you've got now is it's sad because it isn't. I remember it's an entertainment business. It is entertaining, and the problem that we've got now with the way it's become now, it's like, in the day when I played, you got so many characters in the game. Gordon Strachan, you got Eric Cantona, played with a swagger and entertained the crowd. Now you don't see that. You don't see a character because you're frowned upon. Anything that you do, you get knocked back on.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, everything that's
everything's scrutinised. It's like the guy from Leicester. Right, I don't get my head around this. Right,
which guy from Leicester?
Is it Mount, who's got sent home because he's not
James
well?
Madison.
James Madison, who's got sent home. Right, so if he's got sent home and he's not well, right?
Yes, so he didn't go with the England squad because he wasn't well.
No, he went and he got sent back. Okay. Right, so if he lives on his own, right, and he's sat in his house and he's watching TV, what's the difference for him? If he's not married and he's not well and he goes to a casino and he wants to play cards, he's been sent home by the doctor because he's been said he's not. But so what's the difference? But they've jumped on him to say he's done something really wrong. I mean, I don't see that to me as being an issue.
Yeah. Well, there's a perception now. This is how you have to behave if you're a professional footballer, and a lot of it I really agree with, because back in my time, we weren't particularly professional. We weren't, simple as that. Out socialising maybe far too much. But with the internet, social media,
mobile phones,
these days, mobile phones, basically you can't do anything in a public place.
But
can
why?
you?
But
so
why
therefore, as a professional footballer today, you have to live a different life.
Well, I think what it's done for me, it's ruined the game now, as I see it, because I don't see the characters. I don't see the flamboyancy. Even when you're managing now, it becomes difficult because there's so much pressure to win a game of football. You've got a young kid I credit Sam Allardyce for this, because he went into Newcastle, he was an eyed into nothing, right, and they've hammered him from pillar to post. So he's seen this young kid in training, and he's got a spark about him, he's got a flair about him. So Sam's gone, well, I'm under pressure anyhow, I might as well chuck him in. And look what he did against Manchester United on the day, and he played with a smile. And that's what you want to see, because the game is an entertainment and it should be fun. I played the game because
Steve Bruce,
I played the game because I enjoyed it. I enjoyed playing. I actually stopped playing because I stopped enjoying it. I stopped going in the dressing room. I'll tell you now, some don't speak English, some are changing over there, right? Don't change with the rest of the lads. There's not the banter, there's not... In our dressing room at Sheffield Wednesday, we had the TV on, we had the music on, we had head tennis on. It was a crack, and then went out to play. But now, managers are under so much pressure to get results. They can't come out and say, because not everybody can win the league title, not everybody can get promoted. You go into a club, maybe the best for that season is mid-table, but you can't come out and say that as a manager. But the chairman knows that, and instead of backing the manager and say, right, listen, try and produce me some young kids, right, try and bring the club on, try and play a style of football. No, what we'll do is we get 4 or 5 bad results, and you know what, we'll change another manager. But the next manager comes in, it's the same problem for him. But what upsets me more than ever is when I'm watching the game, I like to see... That's why I love watching Messi and I love watching Ronaldo play, because they play with the freedom, they play with an enjoyment to play the game, right? Maybe it's because they're that talented, I don't know. But certainly in the game today, I don't see... Well, you tell me who's the character in the game today? Who's the character in the Premier League today?
It's difficult to...
Jose Mourinho. No, he's a manager.
No, but even as a manager, I like him because he brings something to the table.
He is a character.
Like again, let's go back to the issue with Raheem Sterling and Gomez. You've then dropped Raheem Sterling because he's turned up at a team hotel and put it on him because he's been disrespectful to him and then you've left him out, your best player, out of an England game that you know you're going to win. If it was a game that was going to be a tough game, you'd have played him. So you get the two players together, shake hands, and come on, say, right, listen, this is for England, let's get on winning. But this is because of the media and the press. And certain people play up to the press, like Gareth Southgate, because they want him in there, so he's playing up to them. But let him go and win the European Championship. Let him go and win the European Championship and support him that way. Because for me, when he went to the World Cup, we played nobody and everybody waxed lyrical about him, and this is the media again. And England never played anybody. The first game they come up to against Croatia, they got beat. And what he should have done in the game, we play him in a friendly afterwards, he does. Go to 5 in midfield and we beat him in a friendly. Here we go again. We've just had another group where we've walked it. Let's see what we do in the European Championships. But because the media like him, he gets away with murder.
Where did this conversation start?
I can't quite remember.
No,
but
what I'm saying is
and the media,
and we're talking about...
It's changing personalities, it's changing people and you know, what they're producing, of course. And
in the case of Sterling, did you like to see that fight? I mean, the context was...
I didn't follow the whole story.
I've
only read a couple of
Liverpool beat
things.
Man City.
Yeah.
There was a bit of a scuffle between Gomez and Sterling on the pitch. Next day, they turn up for England training, St George's, I believe, and he walks into the canteen and he squares off against Joe Gomez, saying, "Oh, I think you're a big man now." This is according to reports. Gomez had a scratch on his face, something, handbags, etc.
Okay.
Do you like that? Do you like to see that? It shows passion, doesn't it?
Well, it shows passion. I love to see plays that they're doing like that. You know, that they're acting and they're standing for their own thing, and that they talk to the other players or address them on what they've done. You know, but I don't think I would send a player back home. You know, if he done something like that.
Or bench him.
No, it's like what you say.
Didn't bench him. He was
out. You talk to the players.
For that match.
You talk to the players. You know, both of them. You know, or separately, and afterwards you take them both, you know, in your office, and then you say, okay, you know, we need to be a unit now, and we need to go forward, and we need to win our games with the national team.
I think every situation is different, and we don't know exactly what the situation was there with Sterling and Gomez, and because it's been reported to us. Well, you weren't there, so you don't know.
Honestly,
what
on my
happened.
kid's life, because I tell you why. Raheem Sterling, my daughter, goes out with, her boyfriend has a daughter to Raheem Sterling's sister, so I know exactly what happened from the horse's mouth. But what you've got to do, like Gal, all I'm saying, my point is this, right, is that Gareth Southgate, instead of playing to the media, right, should have dealt with that situation. He would not have left Raheem Sterling out.
I don't think he's playing to the media, but it was in the media, so you have to deal with it. But talking about coming from the horse's mouth, as a head coach and manager of a club, so when you were at Reading, did you ever have to deal with that type of situation?
Yeah, we had fights in training sessions as well.
Yeah.
And not like fight by shoving, but really like fist fights.
Yeah.
In training sessions.
Like proper?
Yeah, like proper, like, okay, you know, a missed tackle or whatever, you know, and then somebody's reacting and it's hitting. But then you take them apart, you talk to them, you know, and say what they need to do and how they need to act with each other. But sometimes you like it as well, because it needs to be. You need to fire things up a little bit as well. You need to have a little bit of aggression, and you don't need to get along, you know, with everybody in your squad as well, you know. But as long as they know what it's about and where they need to go to eventually. And as a manager, sometimes, okay, you talk to them, you explain things. Most of the players know what they need to do and how they need to act. But sometimes, you know, when they're fired up, you know, they react in a certain way. But I think that's normal.
Okay. But Gail, you say he's not playing to the media. Honest opinion, if they weren't playing the team that they were playing, you're talking about the best player in the country at the moment. Would he have left Sterling out the side? He would have dealt with it differently. But because he's playing, the media are liking him, right? They didn't like Sam Allardyce, so they treat Sam Allardyce completely different, right? He was sacked and was proved afterwards of doing nothing wrong, right? But because they didn't like him and they didn't want him, so all I'm saying is this is where the media's influence has become so big, and it's they like you,
Yeah, they can break it as well.
And they can break it.
It's always been.
All right, well, when it comes to characters, since I think it's a really good topic, what's it like to walk into a new dressing room? Particularly for an established team. I mean, you've all changed clubs, you changed countries.
Yeah.
What's it like? How do you assert your personality in that dressing room? Take away what your performance is on the pitch, but just that relationship between your fellow players, your colleagues, your teammates.
Go on, yeah.
Well, it's what's it like? It depends on when and what age you go somewhere, and what
your status is,
and what your status is, and what you've done. Exactly in your career. Like when I was like in my late 20s, early 30s, when you go to Lazio or after United, or when I go to AC Milan, you already like won a lot of trophies and you've got a certain standard. So you walk into that dressing room and people adore you. And when you're young from PSV Eindhoven, when you join Manchester United, okay, then you're maybe a big man in Holland at the time because you're doing very well, but you're still quite young. But you go to one of the biggest clubs in the world, and then you come in. When you come in, you're very humble, and you try to learn everybody, and you stay calm, and you listen to everybody, and then you try to find your way, and you're asking questions, and then eventually, and the only thing that you can do then is just show yourself. In training sessions, in games, as a person, act normal. What's normal, but take it easy. I think it's maybe the right word. And then eventually you'll find your way. People start to appreciate you and start to respect you as well in how you are as a person. You need to try to, especially when you go to a different country, to adjust yourself to the country as well, to the people as well who are over there and how they live in that country. And eventually, I think you'll find your way.
Well, when you're going in, are you quietly just assessing who has what role in the team? Because I think in any workplace, you have the funny people, you have the slightly more introverted people, you have the lads who are a bit more extroverted, you have the angry people. I guess like working, I don't know where to put him.
That's how it goes. And for me, when I went to United, first you're going to go a bit to the other foreigners.
Okay.
Because they're a bit in the same situation.
So who was there at the time?
And they can help you out a little bit as well in how it went before when they joined the club. So Jordi Cruyff, for myself, was there, and Jordi is half Dutch, half Spanish, because he lived, of course, in Spain a long time. He helped me out a lot. Ollie was there, of course. Ronnie Johnson, Henning Berg. And we all, they all lived. Eventually, we all lived in the same area. So from the beginning, I had, my relationship with them was a bit more than the other players, but eventually you grow into the team, you grow into the club, and then it becomes easier and easier.
Are you conscious of what other players think about you as a person, not so much about your performances on the pitch?
What, me personally?
Yeah, did you care?
I was quite lucky. I don't give two hoots.
Fair enough.
Never have done. I'm not the type of person who worries about what people say, because if they don't know me, then what they're saying is irrelevant. Only thing I'm interested in is what my family and my close friends, who I've always kept a tight-knit situation, and that's all I'm concerned about. I'm not interested in anybody else. So if I went into a new club, it depends at the time, like Jaap said. I mean, different when I went to Southampton. I knew that when I went to Southampton, there were 7 points adrift at the bottom of the league. I knew I was brought in to do a certain job. So I had a different demeanour when I went in there. I was in there to ruffle people's feathers, to get people going. So it wasn't about being liked. At the end of the day, in life anyhow, generally, it's not about being liked, it's about being respected. If at the end of the day, because whatever happens in that dressing room, you will be judged on what you do on that football pitch.
But it's a job eventually, because everybody's thinking, okay, it's nice to play a game together, and the harmony in the team needs to be good. In a certain way, it needs to be good as well. Yeah. But everybody needs to understand that it's your job as well.
Correct.
And you're working together as a team, as a squad. You need to perform, you need to do well, but you're an individual within the group as well, and that's how you sometimes need to act, and that's how you sometimes need to work for yourself as well. And it's your job. I'm a centre back. I need to do my job. I need to work hard. I need to do well against the strikers. I need to win that ball and give it to the midfield players or something. Sometime when the opportunity is there, I'm going to bring something extra to the game, and hopefully that and then people start to respect you in what you're doing. But it's not like, okay, I need to be liked by everybody, and then we go out to have dinner somewhere, all of us together. It's not at all. And eventually, when you're making steps, or you go to certain teams and with players who are already from a certain age, you see that everybody's doing their own thing a little bit as well.
Yeah. When it comes to you, I mean, Gary, you and I have worked here for quite a few years now. I've come to know you, and I think that the Gary Stevens of 30 years ago was very different to the Gary now. And you've talked about you're in a much better place mentally now than when you were much, much younger. And obviously you went through a lot as a player. Did you find yourself a bit conscious? I can just imagine you being not quite the same as you are now.
Well, you know, I left Brighton, which were a top-flight club when I was 21 years of age, and I went to a huge club at the time, Spurs. And yes, I played England under 21s, but I walked into the changing room and it was littered with internationals, from Ray Clements, the goalkeeper, Ozzy Ardiles, a World Cup winner, Glenn Hoddle, arguably one of the best ever midfield players who's ever played for England. And yes, it was a bit overpowering for me, definitely. I've finally got myself now, as an older man, a bit more like Carlton clearly used to be as a player, where he said he couldn't care two hoots. I actually don't care what...
That's the thing.
I don't care now what people think about me or say about me. It's irrelevant. It's what I think about me that's important. But back then, yeah, it was important to me that people didn't think I was an idiot or a poor player or was wearing the wrong gear. I still wear the wrong gear now, but back then. But now it doesn't matter to me.
It's
but
better
back
tailored.
then, yeah. Well, maybe.
It is now. But that's the thing, because you obviously cared more about... I guess going to Manchester United was a bit different for you from Gary going to Spurs, because you were the world's most expensive defender. You already had this reputation.
Yeah, but you're quite inexperienced at the time when I went to United as well.
Yes,
So you saw, of course, at a certain time you're hoping that people or the players will respect you and what you can do and what you can bring to the club. So you're always a bit aware of it. And then yesterday we spoke about it as well, in what papers are writing and everything. So sometimes you want to read the paper and then they've written certain things that you're thinking, okay, I'm not too happy with that, and that gives you a bit of a blow in your confidence sometimes as well. And then Fergie said, okay, don't read it. But nowadays, eventually, when you grow into your career, you get more experience and you know how the world is working and how things are going, especially when you go into big teams or when you go to a big league. Then you're thinking, okay, I don't care. But then you come back to what people are saying or writing, and now to press, social media. Then you get your family as well, because then your family is reading everything as well. They're seeing everything as well. And when it's very negative, of course, and they come back to you as well, and then you feel sorry more for them than for yourself.
I find this absolutely fascinating, just to understand the mindset of all three of you. To see you on the pitch. Yeah. I'm just a fan of football, but to understand what's actually going on behind the scenes, you never see that human element, which for me. Yeah. So interesting.
And I think what it's told you already, that within a changing room at any club anywhere in the world, there are all sorts of categories of personality. Yeah. The confident ones, the quiet ones, the shy ones, the insecure ones, those that maybe have some health problems as well. And as a head coach, as we've all been, we have to manage that.
Yeah, you need to manage it, because before games as well, personalities change a little bit. Yeah. Because sometimes when the pressure's on and just before a game, certain players become very loud. They start talking a lot, or they're very loud, or they dance or whatever. And other players who are normally talking quite much, they before a game they go mellow, very silent, and they go and sit and wait and focus on their shoes or their boots or whatever, And sometimes especially when players are loud, certain managers saying, well, you're too loud, you can't be focused enough for the game. So that's why you need to understand people as well and players as well, and what they can do and how they act in certain circumstances as well. And that's what you need to manage.
What were you like, out of interest?
I was, before a game, I was always within myself. I was quiet. I sat down and doing my own thing. Not talking a lot to other players, only sometimes about the way of playing or what we need to do, how we need to deal with certain things and what we need to be aware of.
Interesting. What about team buses? I've always been fascinated. I've seen so many buses arrive at matches. I'm just wondering what's going on the team bus.
Well, back in the day when I was, always a card school. There was always a card school on there. They got TVs on there. Yeah, everybody's different, aren't they? Some of the iPads, watching movies, doing whatever.
Who gets to choose to sit at the back? I mean, how is that decided? Because obviously there's the cool boys at the back, right? Is that true in football?
Well, it's like the school bus scenario.
Yeah, exactly.
The bully. Yeah. The bully at school was sat on the back seat, didn't he? And if he had to pick anybody out, you got sent to the back and...
It depends on what they're doing.
I don't think that happens on the football pitch.
Okay. No, but if they're playing cards, all the tables are like, the ones who are playing cards, the tables with the 4 chairs, okay, they sit over there and the rest need to find their own spot.
That's how it works? Who sits near the gaffer?
No, the gaffer normally, when I played, normally used to sit right at the front, yeah.
Did any player ever go and sit next to the gaffer? for the apart from having?
Well, I don't know, but I mean, sometimes on trips the gaffer used to call players up to come and sit and have a chat to about, obviously the upcoming game or whatever. But normally the gaffer would be there with his staff.
Because if there's one player I can imagine sitting next to, say, Sir Alex, it would be Gary Neville.
No, he never. No.
Why'd you say that?
I don't know. He just looked. He looked like.
No, he never sat down. No,
he never did. He just looked.
But I have changed my perception about Gary Neville, because I probably would have said the same about you. But you know what? Since he's gone into the media, I think he's been a breath of fresh air. I really do. And he surprised me that he's been the way that he has been. He's been very honest. He's been very. I mean, he's Man United through and through, but he's very honest in his thoughts and his analysis of the games. He surprised me, because I actually thought he might be one of those, who just, as I say, play the game or whatever. But he calls it as he is. I think he's done fantastically well.
But going back to the coach scenario, I think. It also, the atmosphere on the coach and the little groups and segregation and everything changes dependent upon how the team's doing.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
Does it?
So you're on a great run. You're near the top of the league, and actually, the music is playing.
Everybody's lively. Yeah.
And then actually, when you're on a bit of a down spin and it's not going so well, and you lost the last game, and you got a tough game away at wherever. The tone on there is totally different, It's a lot quieter, and, you don't want to upset the gaffer or anything like that. And,
I just always imagined that everyone would have set seats. Like, let's say on a bus, seat D, 6 is your seat.
No. Nobody has. No, it's not designated. People get on the bus and they sit wherever they want to sit. I mean, obviously, like Jaap says, the people know that table. They know where the gaffer sits and the gaffer's staff. That's the card table because the card school. That's it, and then everybody else.
Did you ever try to stitch up a new sign? Let's say your captain always sat in that seat. Let's say Roy Keane always took that seat.
Yeah, they do. Sometimes they do. When there's a new player and he says, "Oh, where can I sit? Oh, you sit over there. That one's free."
So that sort of thing does happen.
Of course, it does happen. There's a bit of banter in there as well. It always happens on the coach as well. There's joking around, and especially a day when you travel the day before the game or whatever. When you go on the bus and it's a 6-hour trip or whatever. Then there's a bit of banter there as well, and joking around and some screaming and yelling, and it needs to be as well. You need to have a little bit of fun as well.
Do players get together to try to plan a welcoming party in a banter way for new signings? Do you think,
I've never been involved in that in football. I mean, we've planned nights out. We've planned.
Well, now they need to sing a song, don't they?
Initiation
or whatever.
Did you guys have that during your time?
No.
No initiations?
No.
I cannot imagine Jaap Stam getting up on stage and singing in front of the whole team, to be honest. I can imagine you doing it, if I'm fair.
What's that?
Singing in front of your whole team.
Yeah, well, I'd do it anyhow.
There you go.
But we have the music on in the dressing room anyhow, so that was it. I mean, in our dressing room, it was crazy. It was just crazy. John Sheridan would be watching the horse racing, we'd have the music on. It was fun. I used to, when I woke up in the morning and I was going to work, I mean, I'm going to work to play football. This is the best job in the world. You're waking up, you're going to play at Old Trafford, or you're going to play at Anfield, or you're going to play at White Hart Lane. It's the best job in the world. And it's sad to see the players now not enjoying it as much because of the pressures involved. And when I speak to managers, when I go back, I mean, I won't mention names, but I was back in pre-season, and you speak to people and they don't actually enjoy it anymore now. They live for the result on the Saturday, and that's a shame. And I'll mention one, and I'm glad to see him back in work, Nigel Pearson. I remember when he was manager of Leicester, and I went to see him down there, and he was admitted to hospital on 2 or 3 occasions with heart problems. And, the year that they got promoted, I mean, he was basically told that you've got to get promoted, you hit the ground running, or you're out of work. It's just, so it doesn't become enjoyable on that, and that's what's sad about it, because I can honestly say that I loved the training, I loved playing games. It was fun for me. I loved to be in the dressing room, and when we played, obviously I had the luxury of playing for England with Gascoigne. I mean, an hour and a half with Gascoigne in the dressing room before the game is just a joy.
Bedlam.
Yeah, it's just bedlam.
Is he the craziest teammate you've had?
Craziest. But then to see him in the tunnel going out, so you're going to play at Wembley, 100,000 people, and most people would be a bit nervous, but that's his home. Mm-hmm. That's where he's comfortable, and he's most comfortable to go out there and play in front of 100,000 people and be at Wembley. But that was fun to me. But now you go in the dressing rooms now, like it's not the same. It's not the same game now.
No.
And it's become too much for me, a result-based industry. And the problem that's come with that as well is a lot of the foreign owners. Back in the day, a lot of people, like when I was manager of Stockport, my chairman, Brendan Elwood, was a footballing man, understood football, understood the fact that, hang on a minute, you've got 23 players, 5 of your key players are out, you're not going to be getting any results, it's going to be difficult, it's not a problem, and understood that. But you've got chairmen now who don't understand football, and even those who do, like say for instance Levy at Spurs this season, they've spent fortunes on the new stadium, they've spent fortunes on the new training facilities, and as well as what Pochettino's done last season, they've got to be in Europe, so they get rid of him, and you look at that and you think, well, Pochettino could have actually jumped ship, I believe, and gone to United the season before, and he showed loyalty, and you haven't given. But that's the way the game's gone now. It must be terrible for the managers and the coaches. You see a young player in the reserves, and you think, I wouldn't have played. I don't believe I would have played if I didn't play in that era. Because I remember Jimmy Nicholl was playing right back at the time for West Brom. He'd come back from international duty, he was injured. And Big Ron chucked me in because he went under pressure for the results. But if he was under pressure for a result, he'd put another senior player in. It's sad, and that's why. I mean, you look at the Premier League now. How many English players young English players in the last 3 years have you seen have been played? I mean, I know Frank's doing it now, but how many prior to Frank doing it? And Frank's only doing it, let me tell you, because the situation he's found himself in at Chelsea with a transfer embargo and some of that.
If there's one manager that does it, it would be Pochettino. I think there was a stat since he came to England, I can't remember the exact number, let's say 30 new debutants for England, half of those have come from him, either at Spurs or Southampton. So it's not just one club.
Yeah.
He doesn't seem to be afraid. And you look at the likes of Dele Alli, Harry Winks, Eric Dyer. At the time they were young. I know they're not as young now, but managers like Pochettino aren't afraid to give them a chance, and it paid off dividends. They got to the Champions League final and into the Champions League spots.
Yeah, sure.
But there's not many, is there?
No.
I think one of the biggest, the reason I went into professional football was because I loved the game and I wanted to play it. So I don't know about the pair of you, but I think there's probably more youngsters now and possibly their parents wanting the son wants to go into football because he sees the money that is floating around in football. I do.
Yeah.
So, I played the game because I loved it and I got into the game, and guess what? They started to pay me for playing. That was a byproduct of it.
It's money becomes, and it is very important. It becomes for a lot of people very important, and a reason to try to go into professional football or to make certain steps. And back when I played, I could have chosen a lot of other teams as well and earned a lot more money, but I specifically chose the clubs where I wanted to go to and wanted to play for.
But what about the boy
the
Rose?
money is totally different than when it was paid then, the amounts of money then and what they earn now, Sure.
But what about the boy Rose at Tottenham? Yeah. I mean, it's interesting. He played every game under Pochettino, and Mourinho's let him out. He's got 2 years on his contract. He said he's not going to go anywhere. He doesn't enjoy playing football, but he can earn a lot of money. That's a hell of a statement, isn't it? It's a hell of a statement.
At least he's honest, I guess. But
what do you mean he's honest? If you're a supporter thinking he's got to be on all of 70, 80 grand a week, and you're earning that from a player, and I'm sitting there in the house, and I'm thinking what I would give what I would give to be 20 years younger and be out there playing now. What I would give to do that. And he's got this opportunity and he's saying, well, I'm only doing it because of the money. I don't really enjoy it.
Out of interest, and maybe this is a bit too personal for you to share, but when you first started off as a professional footballer, what were your wages? Way back at your first club.
The first club?
The first club.
£25 a week.
£25 a week. And
25
if you would
a
convert that into current currency, that would be what? 200 a week?
So this is a
150?
professional contract or as a trainee and apprentice?
Trainee, 25.
Yeah, so different.
Sorry, when I signed professional.
So I can remember when I was 16 as an apprentice at Brighton, you were on £16 a week and they paid for your board and lodgings.
Yeah.
And then at 17 it went to £20 a week, and they paid for your board and lodgings. And I signed because I got into the first team at Brighton in the top flight as a 17-year-old on £20 a week as an apprentice. I was playing as an apprentice, and off the back of that, well, we need you to sign a pro contract, son. And I signed for £100 a week at 17. Because in effect,
what year was that, Gav?
That was 1979. So I suddenly, from being on £20 a week, I 5 times my money. I thought I'd won the national lottery, really. And of course, that was a long time ago.
If you were to convert that into current day currency, adjust for inflation. So.
Oh, I'm not a mathematician.
Okay,
I couldn't work
maybe
that out.
£500 perhaps. Double?
I wouldn't even have thought that
okay,
much.
Okay, I'm not sure either.
No.
But
probably an easier way of doing it is a young kid who gets a break at a pro club now, or actually they think he's going to break into the side at some stage in the future, and he's 17 years of age, and they really want him. How much is he signing for? You know, how many thousands a week? Is it as a 17-year-old at Chelsea? You know, you may be on, I don't know, 10,000 a week or 15,000 a week.
Yeah, it depends on your ability, but sometimes even a lot more.
Yeah.
I think when I joined that club, when we spoke about Zwolle, I was 18 when I signed the contract, and then it was guilders in Holland, and I think the pound was like 3 to 1 at the time. I earned a month, was it 1,200 guilders a month, so that's like £400
a month.
But then I needed to go off with taxes, so it was not net. So taxes needed to go off as well, so that was about 40% off of that, so it's
crazy, right?
Yeah,
when you look at what people are getting now, because again, I go to a lot of training grounds and I see the cars they drive.
Oh, listen, I mean, obviously the Premier League's the most marketable team in the world, so with that becomes the revenue. Listen, I don't begrudge them earning the money, but the one thing I will say is back in the day, right, when I signed for West Brom, Brian Robson was the captain. You knew he was the captain. He had the best car in the car park, then Cyril's, then Brendan's. So you knew. Now you go to a football club, you haven't got a clue. It could be an 18-year-old kid with a Ferrari in there, which is, good luck to them. But at least, when I signed for Leeds United, even then in '93, and they just won the Premier League the year before, I knew when I went there, Gary McAllister was top dog, and quite rightly so. We then Gary.
No, but it's unbelievable the difference in payments nowadays and when we played. I remember, I can say when I played at United, the wages that I got, the year's salary was like, I think they earn it now at United in 2 weeks. Or no, let's say a year's salary in 4 weeks in a month.
That's unbelievable.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
But United back in the day, we were never big payers. We're never big payers. In terms of, because I used to remember when I was playing for England and Instey and Pally and all that, and I was earning more than they were earning at Sheffield Wednesday. But at Man United, because you get the big club, you get the spin-offs, you get whatever. I mean, obviously they've moved on from that now, but still, I wouldn't say. I wouldn't know, but I wouldn't. From what I hear, Man City pay more than Man United do now. I think Arsenal pay to some players more than what some of the Man United players are earning now. But it's always been the stature of playing for Man United, and you get your boot deals, you get your things, and then they're winning leagues and cups and whatever, and the spin-offs come from there.
The grand scheme of things, I remember when Shearer went for £15 million, and now you got Neymar, who's about £200 million. So the disparity is absolutely massive.
Yeah.
But I want to share something. This happened almost exactly a week ago. I was outside Melwood. I was waiting to go interview a player in Liverpool, obviously, and I saw a car come out of the parking lot. and it opened the gates, and you can't see inside Melwood. It's very, very hidden. It's very high security. And it wasn't a fancy car. It was just a normal, average car. I'm not going to say what model it was. And then it looked like a mother driving. And in the back, sitting like a little kid like this, Ryan Brewster. And it just made me smile, thinking, you know what? He's going to be a star. But right now, he's just a kid who enjoys football. And he's sitting in the backseat of the car because he's not old enough to drive. And I thought, I don't know, for me, he talked about so highly, but I really enjoyed seeing that.
Yeah.
Before it all changes for him. Yeah. Before he gets 10 million followers on Instagram.
But that's the most important thing nowadays, isn't it? Well, a lot of players like it, cars. You know, when I eventually when you've got the money as well, and when you enjoy it, you're thinking, okay, I'm going to treat myself to a nice car as well.
Any mistakes in terms of buying cars that you look back on and think, why? Why did I buy that car?
Well, yeah. Sometimes you're thinking, okay, why did I do it? Yeah, you know, and now you're like, okay, well, one's enough, and
one's enough.
Yeah.
Which was
and I need a family car, so one big with enough seats, that's fine for the whole family.
What was your biggest regret in terms of a car purchase?
I'm not going to say that.
Yourself? Don't tell me you bought like the car, like the three-wheeler or something. What's it called?
What? The old
Robin Reliance.
That's it.
I was sponsored with one of them, yeah.
Oh my God! I had to wait for your face to react there. I had to wait.
No, I've always seen cars as a depreciating asset, so I don't want one, because all you do with cars is lose money.
That's true.
It?
Yeah.
All you do.
Yeah. Unless it's a classic car, like a 60s Aston Martin or something, or one that was used in a James Bond movie. Yeah. Don't tell me you drove one that was in a James Bond movie.
No.
CP, yourself?
What?
Any regrets in terms of purchases? Not just cars, but just anything in general? Because you were a young man, you were a footballer, and you had too much time.
Listen, like Gary said, I mean, cars are just a waste of money. I mean, I look at it now. I mean, at one stage, I think I had 4 cars on the drive, you know, worth an awful lot of money. And now I don't drive. I've not had a car. Well, I don't have a car in the UK. I don't have a car in Shanghai. My wife.
What's your name, Carlos?
I mean, listen, you're young, you earn a lot of money. Why not? I mean, I like my nice things. I like, you know, I did then, I do now. If you work hard, there's nothing wrong with having nice things. With being successful comes the trappings of success. That's part and parcel. And we all. I'm one of these. I mean, funny enough, me and my dad had this conversation the other day because he said to me, Carlton, how come you always say to me you have no regrets? I have no regrets whatsoever because for me, I mean, it's up to individuals, right? A regret for me is knowingly doing something and you know it's wrong. I've never really, I mean, even like I said to my dad, because he said to me, well, what about when you got done for drink driving? I didn't actually think about going to get into the car, I'm going to go. It happened. So it's not, there's things that have happened that I wish didn't happen, but you can't go through your life saying, oh, well, you regret that or you regret that. You do it. And as footballers or sports people, we are quite emotional people. We are, you know, we go off the moment of things in life. So that there's going to be things that you do that don't work out.
Yeah.
Did you know he'd got done for drink driving?
No.
I didn't either.
You learn something new every day.
I'm surprised, Carlton. I'm quite upset about that, to be fair.
Really?
Yeah.
After your Friday night with him?
Well.
Gents, thank you so much for your time. I know you probably want to go get some food. You've got some more work to do later on. Gary, I'll see you for the next episode. Yep, been an absolute pleasure. And CP, as always, a pleasure as well. More Squeaky Bum Time next week, hopefully.